Okay. We're almost at the end of Women's Month. However, we will keep celebrating right until the end because this is our month. This is our month to celebrate one another and to commemorate the women who came before us and paved the way for the remarkable women that we are seeing today. My name is Pamela Mtanga and I am your host for the day. Welcome to Pink Power Day, and this is the third edition, and I'm so excited to be here today. This platform is aimed at inspiring women, energizing them, and making sure women recognize one another for the remarkable success, rather, that we keep on embarking on. So, ladies and gentlemen, today I am joined by remarkable women in studio today, and one of which is Sarah Kumalo.
Hey.
How are you doing?
I'm fantastic, and thank you for having me.
I have to go through your bio because it's quite a mouthful, but to highlight a couple of things that Sarah Kumalo has done, she has summited Mount Everest in 2019 and four other mountains rather. Amazing. I can't even do one. The stairs. So 5 mountains in total. And she's also an ambassador for Nelson Mandela Libraries, and she climbs mountains in order to raise funds for a good cause. That does not begin to describe all the remarkable things and amazing accolades that she has under her belt. Sarah Kumalo, could you please take me through your journey just briefly, because I think, as I said, what I have said does not begin to describe what a remarkable and phenomenal woman you are in society.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Really humbled by that introduction. So I'm a mother. I'm an executive. I'm also a sister. I'm one of 7.
Yes.
Grew up, was raised by a single mother with the support of my grandparents.
Amazing.
I was the tomboy of the lot. But one of the things that I remember my mother constantly saying to us is the sky is the limit. Because when the neighborhood kind of pitied her for only having girls, they will get married and they will leave you alone and all that, she would come in and say, you can do anything that you want. You know, so for her, education was the big thing, and coming back to 2019, I remember standing on top of the world and realizing that the clouds are beneath me. She was wrong. We need to aim higher, and our kids need to aim higher and not just the sky, because we can do more as individuals, as companies, as mothers, as sisters. And if you look around the world, many women are doing amazingly well. So that's how my journey started in terms of climbing. And I am a Mandela Libraries ambassador, as you rightfully pointed out. I've built 5 libraries for kids, schools that don't have libraries and that are benefiting from it. And I'm hoping it's a small way of changing the narrative for the next generation of Africans. Because we can't, a few years from now, sit back and see our kids going through the struggles that we're going through today. Then as a generation, we would have failed. So that's my small little contribution.
I love how humble you are. It's a small little contribution.
Because the challenges that we have are insurmountable. We're looking at people losing jobs, but when you look closely, it's mostly women. You look at houses that are being managed by a single parent, and when you look closely, it's women. So the problems that we have are insurmountable. And I think what I'm doing is small, but if we each one pick up one thing in whatever corner where we are at, this world will be much better. I know I climb mountains, but other people have their own Everests. In the corner, we were talking about that to the other lady, and she talked about the motor industry and the challenges that are there. She's doing amazingly well. What are you doing in your industry? So I think it's everyone doing something small and making the world much better than we found it.
And that is really important. And to own your success in that is really important. So with all these accolades, what would you say is your superpower?
Oh, wow.
Because clearly you have one or a couple.
I think it's resilience. I see my ability to look at challenges, whether it's expected or unexpected, and still finding a way to stand up and go back for it as one of my superpowers. I absolutely know that it's not always easy. But it's doable, and it starts with being authentic, being honest about where you are, what you can do, and also asking for help. You know, nobody gets to the top on their own. Who is the tribe that you need to surround yourself with to get you to where you need to go? It's no longer, when I first went into corporate, it was women that were alone in the boardroom, wearing gray suits and talking like men that felt they needed to be on their own, but it was lonely up there. Now we can go with our floral skirts, talking like girls, and going for makeups, but sit in the boardroom and actually shake it and make sure that you're heard, we heard, and decisions are made that are fair to both men and women for this generation.
Certainly. So what would you say, you mentioned how women are kind of undermined or just not recognized within the boardroom within the past. However, I really want to learn more about those challenges and more challenges, because I when I read through your bio, I know you didn't make it to the top of Mount Everest the first couple of times you tried. Tell me more about those challenges.
There's a lot of challenges. If I go to the mountain, it is, rocking up there and realizing that nobody that looks like me is here, or the people that I'm climbing with have been climbing for years, but they haven't actually seen a Black woman climbing. So they start questioning, do you belong here? At some point, you also start having an imposter syndrome, like, should I really be here?
Do I belong here?
Do I belong here? And it's just having the courage to say, nobody should actually tell me where I belong. So I should work extra hard and show them. In 2015, when I summited Aconcagua, which is in South America, we had a German guy there that literally just said to me, I've been to South Africa, there are no big mountains. Are you sure you know what you're doing? And I summited and he didn't. When I came down, I didn't have to say anything. I just know next time he sees somebody like me, he'll judge them by their ability and not what they look like. So it's challenges that other people have their own misconceptions about who you are, what you can do. But it's also sometimes us letting it get to us to say, do I really belong? You can let it break you or let it inspire you to do more, because what you do today will inspire the generation coming after you to do even better. I would love for somebody to do Everest, not attempting 4 times before they summit, 1 time. Do it faster, do it in style. Because I haven't been able to do it. It's the next generation looking at the world as a sea of opportunities rather than obstacles that we've had to overcome, because we've shown that it can be done by anybody, wherever it is that they come from. And it's not about where you are that determines where you need to go. It's about how determined you are, how hard you're going to work, and the strategy to get up there. It's very much possible.
Inspiring, truly. So you mentioned a lot about inspiring the next generation. You want to leave a legacy. Absolutely. What is your legacy? What exactly do you want to leave for the next generation?
Education is a big thing for me. It's really teaching them how to fish and not giving them fish. I look at my kids and I see that they're not competing with a child next door anymore. They're competing with a child sitting out there somewhere. So if I can give them the confidence in who they are and the belief in themselves, that is a gift. I think it's actually looking at Africa and saying, no one is coming to help us. We can help ourselves. We can show the world that they need us to help them for a change. And I think that's the generation that I would love to leave, and a legacy for me as an individual.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Sarah. Keep owning your success, and congratulations on your Destiny cover. You looked absolutely stunning. I expected nothing less.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Absolutely. You too own your success.
Thank you so much. And as we said, we must celebrate one another and collaborate. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
Oh, I think I see Percival. Tandy's Percival. Which did I Tandy? He's with another woman? Tandy, shame. Enough is enough. Excuse yourself. Oh, Tandy. Hi, Tommy.
The Moroccan Oil Range gives you bouncy loose curls that you can style every day. Easy Waves, styling you can see and feel.
We are joined by my next speaker. Her name is Shahisa Token. She is a relationship coach, right? And she has a passion for people. She's also an international accredited NPL life coach, and that came from her role as a school counselor, right? Thank you for joining me today. How are you
so
feeling?
much for having me, Pam. I'm well. I'm excited to be here. I think it's a great platform for us today.
Amazing, amazing. So tell me a bit more about your journey.
Okay, so I was initially an auditor, and then I transformed into an educator because I started my family quite young, and I've got 4 kids, 3 teenagers now. And I slowly realized that for a woman, it's often very difficult to juggle the work-life balance. So from very early on, I started thinking about how I can develop myself to live a quality life. And when I did the education, I was a matric educator for 15 years. And slowly transitioning from, as you say, a counselor into a transformative coach, I realized that my reach can be extended out of my classroom to the greater public. And I've met many people that needed coaching. So I needed to actually self-develop and become educated so that I could help more people. And so my journey there started as a transformative coach. And now I do workshops, I do relationship counseling. So I've constantly tried to study more, learn more, and become a learner of life, and then just try and help more people as possible.
I can imagine you as an amazing educator, so patient and so well-spoken. Tell me about the challenges that you've faced in your journey, especially because you kind of switched and exchanged careers.
So I think initially it is the decision to transition from career to career. And I speak relatively on large platforms about this, that to make that move, it comes from a point of fear because you're losing something in order to gain something else. But if you look at education as your investment in yourself and say, well, whatever I've actually invested in my education, I'm using in my different careers. So you'll see aspects of me in my coaching where I'll start talking about business. That comes from my business experience. And then when I comfort you, it comes from my motherly instinct. So again, as women, I think we're very adaptable and we tend to play our roles very easily if we know and we're confident in where we last came from. So for me, transition took time, but it was a good decision to make. And I constantly am redeveloping myself. But the largest challenge, I think, is finding people that have the mentality to invest in their emotional health, invest in their mental health, because a lot of time they want something tangible. So as a coach, it's very difficult to find an industry where people actually want to spend money and learn about themselves, learn about their behaviors, their thoughts, their actions, and invest in getting themselves to a place of wellness. And that's been quite a challenge, yes.
Certainly. So what would you say then? Do you think that there was a point in your life where you were like, perhaps this was not the right decision to make, to switch careers?
So I've never actually regretted anything, if that's the question. What I have done is I've become more adaptable. So as we're saying, these open discussions, to have more of these, and as a radio host and a columnist for a newspaper, I actually write articles about why it's important for us to develop ourselves and find things and talents and unique abilities that only we may have that we can actually use to our advantage in life. And oftentimes we think about everything having a monetary value. Some things are passion involved and other things are bread and butter. And I think when people start thinking along those lines of what they can actually develop in themselves to become serving members of society or communities and have these platforms of discussion and get to know who they really are. I think for me, it hasn't been like a challenge, but more me being able to adapt to suit my environment.
You speak of platforms where people express themselves and adapt. Tell us a bit more about Wiser.
Okay, so WISER was conceptualized by me last year, and it stands for Women in Social Economic Reformation. I was privy enough to be hosting events and speaking as an inspirational speaker at many functions, and I was invited at business conferences across the country, so interprovincial. And there along the way, I've collaborated or I've networked quite a bit with influential people, celebrities, lay people, so people like myself, just in a profession, some housewives, who offered a very different mentality of how they view the world. And I thought to myself, well, if I group all these different women in a room together, imagine what would happen, the conversations that it would spark. And so when Wiser started, it was a workshop on self-development and upskilling. And slowly we realized that we can actually use these proceeds for a greater good. So all the proceeds for Wiser, for our events, for our webinars, goes to a specific charity. So last year it was towards abused women. And this year it's towards purchasing oxygen concentrators for COVID.
Wow.
And if you think of what you're actually giving back to society and the help and the ripple effect, other women are viewing the platform and saying, well, we can actually do something like this. We know other people, we know other organizations. So it's going to grow larger and larger, and just being able to motivate people to look outside their bubble of just themselves and their families and look at other people who really need the help, that are struggling maybe in certain areas or communities. I think that's the starting point of where Wiser is. The vision was to look away from yourself and see where you can help someone. So it may not obviously be you being able to afford a ticket, but if we can get a sponsor for a lady that wants to upskill or develop herself. So we've got corporate sponsors, we ask for donations, and then we find women to actually teach them a skill. So that's what Wiser is.
So I really find this quite inspiring for me. It's quite empowering as well that you got up one day and said, these women, I am going to make sure we come together and create this platform.
I have to tell you, it was so strange because I met a Mrs. World in one day, and then I met a Mrs. something by her surname, and I said, well, this woman has something, an inspiring story that she can tell this woman, and this woman would take it further. So that's my first event. I had a Mrs. World, I had a business coach, I had a somatologist, someone talking about beauty and day-to-day, and then I had your average housewife talking about the struggles and talking about the journeys, and everyone had a story to tell. And as you are going to network and open yourself up to this industry, you're going to realize everyone's story has a message. So it may not be that you are influential or in a state of status or title, but that your story can help someone.
Certainly. And I think what I get a lot from your story is how important collaboration is for you, how important it is for women to come together and create something.
Definitely. I'm constantly learning. I've just met Marsha and Sarah, and I was inspired because, again, you don't have everything inside of you. You have to realize what your strengths are and also what your opportunities to learn are. And when you have that open-mindedness about what you can get from others, I think that's your growth point.
I think something is going to come out of COVID-19 for you. I think you're going to sit here and say, you and you and you, we are starting something.
I've just made lovely friends here today, and I'm so excited for our journeys together.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today, and good luck for your journey.
Thank you so much, Pam. I look forward to networking with you sometime.
Lovely meeting you as well.
As well. Thank you.
It's time for me to welcome my next speaker, Marcia Mayaba. How are you doing?
I'm fine, and you, Pam?
I'm good, thank you. So I have to give you a bit of background about her because I know she's going to be humble about everything, but she's the first Black female executive representing Ford and Mazda. She's also the vice president of NADA, and she was given her first break in 1997. I know she looks about about 20 years old. But I really want you to tell me a bit more about your journey, because you got your first break from two women that you still remember today. Tell me, how important is it for you for women to celebrate each other and recognize each other in that sense?
Thank you, Pam, and happy Women's Month to you.
Thank you. Happy Women's Month to you
And
too.
to all the women in South Africa. Yes, I got my lucky break, like you say, in 1997 by two females, Sharon and Corinne Cooper. And I've known them, 30 years now? No, 23 years.
She's giving away her age. I saw that.
23 years. And they're still in my life today.
Oh, wow.
And that for me, to have had pioneering women like that, to have a vision and to believe in another woman that they've got potential, is exactly what I resonate with.
Yes.
We have to be able to give each other a chance as women, give each other opportunities, but it's not just setting up people for failure. The support that they gave me and the mentorship and the training that they gave me laid a solid foundation of the woman that I am today. So for me, it's one thing to give an opportunity, but it's another thing to make sure that that woman is sustainable for the future and they will grow and to unleash their potential and to mentor them.
That is beautiful. If you could share with me the challenges you faced when you were getting into this male-dominated industry.
So I got into to this industry, as you say, in 1997. That was 3 years after democracy. I don't know if you were born.
I was born, okay? I was
all right.
crawling at least.
and yes, it was 3 years after democracy. So apart from the fact that I was black and I was female, it was a white male-dominated industry, mostly Afrikaans. And the challenges that I've had, you mentioned the first black-female moments. There were many. And each time, in order for me to have thrived in that environment and to get credibility, is to work hard. So literally throwing myself into my work, working 3 times harder than my male counterparts. And because I could produce and they could see that, oh, okay, she can swim. All right, well then, we'll start acknowledging her. So literally, that's the challenge. For every level that I've been, including this newly appointed one. My one colleague said to me, it's a man's world. That was my first initial encounter as a franchise executive at Barlow World. And then you let your work speak for itself, and that earns you credibility and respect. But it shouldn't be like that. And that for me is probably what is, it gets draining to a point because you just keep repeating the cycle every level that you go. But that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Can you do the job as a woman in this so-called man's world?
Coming from that and with all this noise in your ears that it's a male-dominated industry and you might not be able to do the job and having to let your success speak for itself, what would you say is your proudest moment when you proved to everyone that I can actually do this?
So I was appointed as the first black female dealer principal in South Africa in 2011. And I still remember my boss at the time, Gert Koekemoer. This business was making 400,000 Rand profit before tax every month. And he looked at me and he said, Marsha, make me proud, but don't mess with that 400,000. And my proudest moment is literally walking into a dealership, my first time ever, no experience, building up a team that had so much confidence that we could produce. That 400,000 actually turned around to be 1 million Rand PBT per month. And we did that literally in a matter of a year. So it's a two-pronged thing. It's building a team that showed potential and resilience and then making the money. And my third proudest thing, Pam, is that I realized when I started in 1997 that I'm going to be a necessary disruptor in this thing. Okay? I looked for the women, there were none. It's like, where's the female leadership? There was none. And I decided that I wasn't going to be a backbencher during my journey and my career. I was going to make sure, firstly, that I work hard, hopefully succeed, get some credibility behind my back, and share my story and let my voice be heard for the future leaders, female leaders in the motor industry. And I think over a 23-year period, here I am sitting here today, like you said, very humbled by the opportunity. And I know I'm making a difference because I see it in the young women that I mentor.
I love how you're owning your success. I love it.
Thank you.
It's beautiful to
Thank
watch. And I actually want to ask if you've always been this confident, because I think I did a bit of research and I heard that you've once had a nervous breakdown.
Yes.
If you could please tell me more about that time in your life.
So have I always been this confident? I don't know. People say I do come across as confident. I'm actually quite introverted. But my mom passed away when I was 21, and we had a real hard life. There was a time when we were staying in a back room in somebody's house, and my mom got bitten by dogs. And I got home from school one day, and she was crying, and I just hugged her and I comforted her and really tried to make light of the situation. And I'll never forget when she said to me, and I was probably 13 years old. She said to me, "You're so strong." She said, "Thank you, my baby, you're so strong." And I've hung on to those words. So perhaps that's where the confidence comes in. But I'm glad you asked the question about the nervous breakdown, because the one thing that I never want when I share my story, to be lost in the euphoria and the success, like you said. I still want to understand what success is, but it's real. There's been failure moments, there's been exciting, dreaming, achievement moments, but it's been a real human story. So in 2014, I then, after really, really pushing myself in this industry, trying to prove, I had a point to prove I can do the job, I threw myself in my work and really neglected family. I was raising 2 younger sisters because I wanted to show them I could do it. And I was taking on every battle. If a man, so little as undermined me, I would take him on. If my decision making was not taken seriously, I would take that on. I was invincible because I had some sort of track record. But I didn't realize that I was doing some serious damage to myself, emotionally, physically, and mentally. And one day I got into my car and drove to work, and I was just in tears, and I didn't know why. And I stopped at the dealership, and I just couldn't get out the car, sobbing. And I was breaking down. And eventually HR came, and they took me to a facility, and I was diagnosed as depressed, anxious, and stressed. But that story I share willingly and openly because in hindsight, that breakdown was the best thing that could have ever happened in my life when I came back after that. I took an 18-month sabbatical and I reflected, I introspected. And then in 2016, now this happened in 2014, in 2016, I decided to come back to the motor industry. The same people that said Marsha was absolutely awesome before the breakdown then said, "No, sorry, you're no longer good enough. You have to start at the bottom and work your way up again." Then Paulo Will said to me, "You know what, Marsha, we'll give you a dealer principal role." I call that part Marsha Mayaba the return. Hey, I came back. The return. I came back. And 3 years later, I was appointed as franchise executive. But the lesson there for me was, Marsha, you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. Do you, girl? You know you've got what it takes. Work hard. You don't have to prove yourself. And own your space and own your position. And continue to make a difference. And that is why I say, back then, I thought it was the worst thing that happened. Right now, it's the best thing that could have happened. And I choose my battles. Some of them, and I think, oh, you foolish person.
I think that is a really beautiful way to kind of shift your perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for every woman who is in business or that girl child, believe in yourself, dream big. You don't have to justify your existence by the mere virtue that you've been appointed as something. Says you've got what it takes. And you are competent. Believe in yourself.
That is such a beautiful message, which brings me to my last question to you. What do you think is your legacy that you're leaving behind, especially within the corporate and motor industry?
So I have a mantra that I've carried with me probably since about 2007. I always knew that I wanted to make a difference. So my legacy will be that I made it better than when I found it.
Amazing.
Short and sweet.
That is so beautiful. High five.
High five. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you so much for coming here today.
Thank
I
you.
am really inspired by your journey, and I love that you were able to share those fragile moments or not so proud moments of you being depressed,
Yes.
which has played a role in your success today.
Thank
So I really thank you for doing that, and it was really important to take mental health to its
Absolutely.
highest priority. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam, and thank you for having me. Really appreciate
I hope you're inspired and empowered because Marsha, she's coming. What a lovely atmosphere in studio today. But right about now, we're going to go into some feel good sessions with Obsession Live. Take it away.
This is every day. Quick to the chase, minds full and rushed. Trying to keep up with each other, with ourselves. Wrapped in our thoughts of big dreams and even bigger plans. Something grand, something that'll happen someday. Until now. Open up to the comfort of company. Voices in the air, laughing, pouring, bursting. With hearts out, dare to live loud, to grow close and gather. For together, as sure as there's tomorrow, we'll breathe in the present and know that someday is today, and today is every day. So, take a moment and celebrate what matters.
The theme of the event is the union of women. We want to celebrate one another for the role that we are playing in society. We want to celebrate each other for being really strong women. We also want to say that we are not competing at all, but we are rather here to collaborate, support each other on our journeys to success. So the next time that you are on your way up, remember to leave the ladder for the next woman to join you up there, because when women come together, greater things happen. Today I'm joined by these beautiful ladies. We were actually talking about how beautiful we are today. Yes, you know. And because it's not business as usual, we are in a different time at the moment with the global pandemic. But I really want to know, these kind of events really unite us and bring us together. But for you, what has kept you ladies inspired during this time? Because it's really easy to lose hope and lose all your sense of inspiration because we're in a lockdown.
For me, it's the knowledge that there is a few projects that I've been working on that are waiting for me on the other side, and that I've been given a chance to be stronger and show up better and differently when the time comes.
Yes, definitely.
I think the most important thing for me during the lockdown period is because everything was forced into a halt.
Yes.
It was a lot of time for introspection. And what I realized is what we were actually going after and our goals and our vision boards, suddenly we were thrown into this new way of living and new way of thinking. I'm sure you guys will agree. So the introspection came when you actually started looking at yourself and how to develop yourself to live through this period, but also to thrive and not just survive in this period.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, for me, really, I think as a woman in leadership in my organization, what a time to lead. And it's really, really, really challenging times. We were already in an economic downturn, literally before COVID. And COVID just exacerbated the situation. So with a responsibility of about 540 people, I come from a male-dominated industry, and 80% of it is male. And as a woman in that space, what a time to lead. And I had to exude the confidence and the strength and the empathy of what the country is going through and our organization. And for me, yes, I think it really has stretched myself in terms of leadership, tenacity, and flexibility, and assuring, the men that I lead that it's going to be okay, as difficult as it is.
I love that. And you kind of touched on my next question, which is, what have you learned about yourself? Would you say that is leadership for you, learning to lead in a different time?
In terms of where we are, somebody asked me, how are you feeling at the moment? And really every single day is all those 5 emotional stages. First you know what has hit you, then you're angry, then you're teary, then you're curious and you're fearful, and then you're in acceptance mode, and you literally go through that curve every single day. But what I have learned is to give people assurance. As women, we are natural nurturers and comforters. So in a male-dominated industry, I've come to sort of, they call me Skopskit and Donner. So I can see that. But this journey has actually taught me to be more human about what people are going through, about what we are going through.
Definitely.
And yes, that's a trait that I didn't think I have.
Yeah.
Amazing. So what have you ladies learned about
just
yourselves?
taking from what Marsha said, that we've got all these roles that we need to play and we're constantly juggling it, whether it's at work or whether we were at home or whatever our profession, our passions were. The idea that we needed to be resilient because we needed to overcome this and we need to get through this. It was a challenge because suddenly you were forced to be then the educator at home and then the leader at work and then the entrepreneur, still making sure that your brand was surviving through this time, and then still a companion to maybe your husband or in whichever relationship you're in, and a friend to your friends. So it was constantly juggling those roles, but noticing that you have the resilience and the strength, and that really, I think, came through in lockdown, because if we weren't there for ourselves, we wouldn't have been able to come through this for anyone else either.
Very true.
I've always known that I'm resilient. The only thing that I realized during this time that it doesn't come naturally for everybody. So I was checking up on my friends in the beginning. Then I actually decided to start a business. I'm a transformational coach, I was saying to her, because I realized I can reach out to more people and just encourage them and nudge them to realize that we are stronger than the situation that we are in. We were made for this time. If you look around the world, the countries that are being led by women are doing much better than the countries that are being led by the guys. So we have something to bring to the table, and we need to celebrate that and allow other people to celebrate other women, to celebrate their successes. You talk about the ladder, I think grab them by the hand and take them to the summit.
Yes. That's it. I love it. I love it.
Absolutely.
And speaking of what you were doing in lockdown, I like I said earlier, your workouts have kept me going during the lockdown. Sometimes I'm just like, if she can do it, I totally can. Those workouts were totally there. And then we really want to know, what keeps you ladies revived? What really revives you and just says, I am going for it?
For me, it's knowing that I don't have forever. Life is fragile. I have today, and today I must show up because today is the present that it is. And also, there's another child out there, especially Black African child, sitting there that's looking out to me because they too want to celebrate August because our generation have done something.
Certainly.
It will be sad if my great-grandchildren are still celebrating 9th of August because of the women of the 56. What are we doing today to make sure that we leave a mark, we leave the impact that makes sure that we level the playing field? We don't have the issues that we have today for females. You know, we are treated equal, not because we've been given a seat at the table, but because we have shown the presence that we are there at the table and we have something to contribute.
Amazing.
I think that word revive, just immediately what came to mind was the fact that we need to keep living. And for me, I think where I grasp that or I get inspired is by my kids, seeing their expectation of the future, their excitement to be living, to have something to plan for their lives. I mean, we all go through the phases of your 20s being so fearless and then your 30s settling down. So each phase dictates a different us. And now in the 40s, you're like sort of stable, but you're also planning for a retirement, which is a slower pace of life. So to get revived, you really just have to look at the youth and look at what they are aspiring towards and they're excited about. And it makes you automatically excited. And I love the fact that we have such inspiring, but also not so voiceless youth anymore. I think the generation, the millennials, are more outspoken than ever, and they're more daring than we ever was, well, I ever was as a generation. So I love the fact that they're using their voices in the correct way and that we are setting precedents for the young females coming forward.
Love it.
My journey in the motor industry is no longer about Masha Mayaba. It's been 23 years, and they say I'm good at what I do. I just do my job. So for me, it's about a purposeful life. So that's what makes me get up in the morning. You know, Sarah mentions those women, 1956, and I look at Abu Mam Sarah at work, Mam Julia at work, and do you know that when they look at us in our current roles, they are so proud. And we often talk about the future, but very, very rarely say, but these ladies that wake up and come to work every day, and they make us our tea, and they clean the floor. I don't call them tea ladies, I call them refreshment managers. Because they manage our expectations in terms of having a drink. So it's about what does the future look like? We must acknowledge where we come from. And I call myself the fertilizer because the future leaders in the motor industry are going to have a journey that is green grass with flowers, but they will have their own challenges. But what they will not do is go through what I went through when I started in the industry. Their journey must be better, but they must deal with different challenges. For example, being ignored in a boardroom. That should never happen to them. So it's no longer about Masha Mayaba. It's about making it better than when I found it.
Amazing. So that brings me to the question of how and why should women celebrate and collaborate with each other?
That is my theme for 2020, Women's Month. I've been on this journey of sharing my story with people and hoping to inspire, like Sarah was saying, at least that one girl child, one black girl child. And my theme is simple. You mentioned it earlier. The table is big enough. There's no competition. There's no jealousy time. We are busy fighting with men for a seat at the table. Now we must contend with each other as well. There's no time for that. We are stronger together. And that is what I say to my team. I mentor these young ladies that come into the motor industry, and I give them that responsibility to say, I'm giving you time, my time. Doesn't matter which level of engagement or employment or title that you hold. You don't need a title to make a difference. Go back, uplift somebody. Don't laugh at a woman, and don't, underestimate the power and the influence that we have. So collaboration is the only way to go. And it really hurts me. You actually see it at executive level. And it's painful. But I'm a talker, as you can tell. I don't let things slide.
I'll just add a different perspective to that is I feel when we talk about collaborating or competing, it starts with us.
Yeah,
So if
sure.
you feel confident enough
Yeah.
as to being your own cheerleader first, that's the only other time that you'll be able to raise someone up to that level or
Yes.
collaborate with
And
them.
not
It's
see
because
them
it's
as
a
a
very
threat.
mutual respect industry. And we've seen it now in lockdown. And I've got a platform which I use called Wiser, which we're going to talk about later, Women in Social and Economic Reformation. And it's all about putting people on a platform to speak, to inspire younger people that we can, together as women, be happy for one another.
Yes.
If you necessarily get something that I've aspired to, I can still get it. There's a lovely saying in my religion, it's what is meant for you will never miss you. And when God gives you something, it's his direction. But when God protects you from something, it's his protection again. So you're not getting it because you're being protected from it. So you can be happy for the next person if you have the mentality that you will still get what's meant for you. And if your vision is not aligned with others, but in your own lane, and focus on your journey and being inspired by other people's journeys and how you can help yourself through their journeys. So the competition really should not exist if you are focused on yourself and your development.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this time. I'm actually part of an initiative and that we're running with Momentum called She Owns Her Success. If I look back at my journey, attempting Everest 4 times, the first 3 times, people were fine in saying, "Oh, shame, you didn't make it," and and I would, feel sorry for myself. Then I came back and I made it, like celebrate, but not just too much.
Yeah.
It's almost like girl children can't be proud and scream and say, "I've done it." But this is the time to say, "I need to own my success.
Yes.
I need to share my success. I need to allow you to share your
Yes.
success."
Everest.
That's amazing.
Not just any mountain.
Congratulations. And you're so proud about it.
Yeah.
You have Everest.
Yeah, it's her thing. She's done 5 already. It's her thing.
But the reality is, I've been to the top of the world, and there's enough space for everybody.
Yes.
So let's just pull each other up and show the world that we can, because the world needs women, black, white, Indian. It doesn't really matter, because we have something to bring to the table, and this is our time. Let's
Different
celebrate.
flavor.
Wow. Absolutely.
That's beautiful. So I have to fix my statement. You won't leave the ladder, but you'd rather pull them up to summit.
Yes. Send the rope down.
Amazing. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today. And I hope someone at home is really inspired and empowered to do better for themselves. If you haven't gotten up during this lockdown and done something for yourself, this is the correct and right time for you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pam.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
ladies. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, ladies and gentle girls, for joining us today. I hope you are inspired and empowered to do better in your journey. Thank you to the remarkable women who joined me today, and they're making groundbreaking moves in their respective industries. Today, before you leave this conference, I hope you look in the mirror and say to yourself, I am the best version of myself, and I will continue to be amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Kenya. uzokumbula Shambela manda Dani wami Wakuku makinyanya Uzokumbula Shambela manda
Pela manda,
Pela manda
pela manda,
Pela manda
pela manda yo,
Pela manda
pela manda hey.
Pela manda uzokumbula Shambela manda
Pela manda,
Pela manda
pela manda,
Pela manda
pela manda yo,
Pela manda
pela manda hey.
Pela manda uzokumbula Shambela manda Wapuma wahamba wakengekole Wambekisela pants West under some Makulu magabi Munkuku amima Kaya letu eba oh I close to stand Hey Let me finish
Uya wakshia nengane zetu, hewa ya kulisa, omunyu muzi wenyindo oda.
Haliwa Wakuku bakinyanya Uzokumbula Shambela manda Dani wami Wakuku bakinyanya Uzokumbula Shambela manda
Pela manda,
Pela manda
pela manda,
Pela manda
pela manda we,
Pela manda
pela manda yo,
Pela manda uzokumbula Shambela manda
pela manda,
Pela manda
pela manda,
Pela manda
pela manda ye,
Pela manda
pela manda hey.
Pela manda uzokumbula Shambela manda Wapuma wahamba wakengekole Wambekisela pants West under some Nakulu magabi Munkuku amima Kaya letu ebabo Hey, hey. Let me finish
Uya wakshia nengane zetu, hewa ya kulisa, omunyu muzi wenyindo oda.
Taliwa Wakuku bakinyanya Uzokumbula Shambela manda Taliwa Wakuku bakinyanya Uzokumbula Shambela manda
Pela manda,
Pela manda
pela manda,
Pela manda
pela manda ye,
Pela manda
pela manda ye.
Pela manda uzokumbula Shambela manda